This is one of the newest new cars you can buy in Australia. And by that I mean it's really, really new. It's the Leapmotor C10, an all-electric Tesla Model Y rival from a Chinese company that was only brought into existence in 2015 and only rolled out their first ever car in 2019. But a recent partnership with auto giant Stellantis has propelled Leapmotor onto the global stage. So from November, you'll be able to buy this from Australian Jeep dealerships and at a price that seriously undercuts the Tesla Model Y. So, is this all-electric SUV worthy of your time? Let's go and have a look.
So, pricing is unconfirmed for now, but we do have a pretty solid idea of where the two-model Leapmotor C10 lineup will land, and that is well below the Tesla Model Y. At the time of writing, the Muskmobile lists at $55,900. The entry-level C10, the style, well, it'll be about 10 grand less, landing at around $45K, and the top-spec design, it'll be around $49K. Standard equipment for the style includes a huge panoramic glass roof with sunshade, dual-zone climate control, electric front seats, a 10.25-inch driver display, and a 14.6-inch central screen with inbuilt nav, which you will be using because there's no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, at least not yet, but we'll come back to that in just a second. There's also wireless charging. Your key is now a little card, or you can use your phone. There's a 12-speaker stereo, 18-inch alloys, and LED lighting. The design adds 20-inch alloys, an auto-opening boot, heating and ventilation for the front seats, and a heated steering wheel. Now, be warned, an MY25 update is coming sometime next year, and it'll deliver standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which you won't be able to retrofit to existing cars. So if that tech is important to you, you might want to hold off. And one more quick word of warning. All the tech stuff is great, provided it works. Now, Leapmotor did tell us that these are pre-production cars, which usually means kinks are still being worked out, but our two test cars suffered from several tech and driving gremlins, some more serious than others. It all comes down to the angle you're looking at the C10 from, I reckon. From the front and the side, it looks mature and entirely inoffensive, and it also manages to look smaller than it actually is. Remember, this thing is almost 4.8 meters long, which is pretty big, and actually about bang on the length of the Tesla Model Y. But while Elon's SUV can look big and bulbous, I reckon this one looks pretty neat, especially the top spec car, which rides on 20-inch alloys, and there's full LED lighting that even dances a cute little dance across the rear light bar when parked.
Inside, you'll find a space that's fairly pared back and clean feeling, but it's also a space that is frustratingly free of physical buttons. Now, most brands will spin you a yarn about aesthetics or something like that, but to Leapmotor's credit, they just come right out and say it's a cost-saving measure. It does mean, though, that all of your car functions are controlled through this screen. Now, elsewhere, I love this eco seat material, which feels like a really soft leather, even though we know that it isn't. And in a great credit to the brand, this massive sky roof has a sunblind, which is a non-negotiable in Australia. Now, I think one of the surprising things about the C10, because it just doesn't look that big when you look at it from the outside, is just how much room there is here in the back seat. I mean, this is genuinely massive. Look how much knee room I've got. Look how much headroom I've got. And I can pretty much guarantee that no matter how tall your friends are, they can ride back here in comfort. Now, elsewhere, there's twin USB charge points. In the back, there's two more up front, and there's cup holders front and rear as well. And at the boot, you'll find 435 litres of space, growing to well over 1,000 litres when you fold these seats flat.
One fairly unique party trick the C10 offers is the ability to fold the front seats almost flat so that they connect with the rear seats, creating a bed-like space to chill out on while you're waiting to charge. And it is kind of cool, but I don't really know how often you're going to be reclining like that in the basement level of a shopping centre car park or wherever you happen to be charging.
The C10 gets a single rear-mounted electric motor making 160 kilowatts and 320 newton meters, which it feeds through a single-speed transmission. Now, it's not the fastest feeling EV in the world. 100 kilometers an hour arrives in just over 7 seconds, but it also doesn't feel underpowered. In fact, it feels about right for the city. The C10 gets a 69.9 kilowatt hour LFP battery, which is good for an okay driving range of around 424 kilometers. But because of its 400 volt architecture, its high speed charging is limited to just 84 kilowatts. Now, that is not amongst the best offerings in Australia, and it means that plugged into an appropriate fast charger should take around 30 minutes to accrue 200 kilometers in driving range. Welcome then to the driver's seat of the Leapmotor C10, and I want to start by saying this. I honestly think, and I'm not exaggerating, I honestly think I have pairs of shoes that have been around longer than Leapmotor's existed as a company. Remember, it was only founded in 2015 and only produced its first car in 2019. So you expect a car like this C10 to feel a little unfinished, like a first attempt, I guess, not perfected. And yet it doesn't feel like that at all. I've got to say, I've been really impressed by the way this thing drives. It is not the most exciting car on the road. It does not stir your emotions. and it gives you that kind of white goods on wheels vibe, I suppose. But it's big, it's spacious, it's comfortable, it's filled with tech. It's not super powerful, but it doesn't feel underpowered either. And we've taken it up and down some twisty roads today, and I've got to say, it doesn't even roll around all that much, which is surprising given its weight. But I guess it's because the batteries are down low. But it feels pretty stable and planted. And while it is not a sports car by any measure, you also don't get that feeling of sort of tall ship seasickness when you're going around tight bends. So I guess I'd say it does pretty much everything you might expect an electric SUV of this size to do. It'll carry the family and all of their stuff. We're in Italy for the launch of this C10, and the roads over here are actually a bit like Australian roads in the sense that some are good and some are, well, less than good. But I've got to say I've been pretty impressed with the ride in this thing so far. It does feel fairly comfortable and compliant. It doesn't feel overly firm or stiff, but nor does it feel overly soft and spodgy. It's just a comfy, cruisy way to get around. So there are a couple of quirks though, and the first is that the safety systems are unbearably annoying, as they are in most new vehicles, to be fair, and this thing will squawk and bong at you incessantly unless you switch them all off, which we've done. But I'm not sure if that's entirely Leapmotor's fault or just the fault of these ever-tightening safety regulations, but at least it is fairly easy to turn them all off. The second thing is there's no physical buttons in the car, which I am a big fan of. It does mean you find yourself pouring through menus to do absolutely anything you want to do on the vehicle. And the third is that it does feel just a little bit unresolved in terms of its traction systems. It happily breaks grip really easily, this car, especially in the wet if you're going uphill. And that's even taking into account that it doesn't produce that much power. If this had a higher power motor at the rear, I really think it could be a handful in the wet. But to be honest, they are just quirks, they're not deal breakers. And if I'm being totally honest with you, I did expect this to be less convincing just because it's such a new brand entering the global market for the first time. But actually, they've really nailed a lot of the brief here.
The C10 is yet to be crash tested, but the brand is confident of a 5-star rating owing to its 7 airbags, 12 ADAS sensors, and 17 driver assistance functions. You'll very quickly learn how to turn off the speed limit warning though, which will make your head explode. In terms of ownership, the C10 is covered by a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty in Australia, but service intervals and pricing are yet to be confirmed for our market, so you'll have to watch this space.
The best way I think to describe the C10 experience is inoffensive. There's nothing that really grabs you about it, but nor is there anything unpleasant either. It's just a big, spacious, comfortable electric SUV at a sharp price and with plenty of kit, even if it is a little bit beige or vanilla. Now remember, to read my full review on this car and on thousands of other vehicles, head to carsguide.com.au.